Throughout my life, Star Fox has existed as a franchise that I haven't given much attention to. Growing up, I really only knew him from Super Smash Bros. And nothing else. It's strange because I've been a science fiction fan my whole life, and a Star Wars fan at that, but despite this, I've never played a Star Fox game before. I was mainly a Mario and Kirby kind of person during my childhood, though I did play other things as well. Over the past few years, though, I've been exploring more game franchises, playing through series such as the Metroid games, which I quite enjoyed. With Fox appearing in the Mario Galaxy movie, and the series now getting a new remake, I thought now would be a better time than ever to give the games a try. In this series, I'll be playing through every Star Fox game in order of release, with each video covering a different game. I'll give some background on the game, then go over it and give my thoughts. Let's not waste any more time though. Welcome to Rob's Quarters. I hope you enjoy this video. The idea for Star Fox spawned from Argonaut Software, a company that worked with Nintendo since the early days of the NES. They had developed a prototype of their game, Starglider, for the Super Nintendo, which, for reference, looks like this. We don't have footage of this Super Nintendo prototype, but Argonaut basically said that this was as far as they could go unless they were given the opportunity to develop custom hardware to allow the Super Nintendo to process 3D graphics better. Nintendo would greenlight this idea, and the Super Effects chip was born. To showcase this chip's abilities, Star Fox would be created, with the game's main design being handled by Shigeru Miyamoto and Katsuya Iguchi. Takuya Imamura created the character designs, and Hajime Hirasawa composed the music. Fast forward to February 21st of 1993, and the game would debut in Japan. Incoming enemy. Star Fox sees you playing as Fox McCloud, leader of an elite mercenary team called Star Fox, with the other members being Falco, Peppy, and Slippy, where you're all trying to take down Andros, a mad scientist who's trying to wreak havoc on the Lylat system, the planetary system which this game resides in. Before you begin, there's actually multiple gameplay styles you can choose from, which is pretty cool, though I went for the first option that was already selected. I also played through the training to familiarize myself with the controls, and something I found funny is how Falco actually acknowledges how unnecessary this training is for them, because, of course, they're an elite team. Anyways, afterward, I moved on to the main game. At the start, you get to choose between 3 different levels of difficulty, which all take you different routes to the final level. These are Level 1, Easy difficulty, Level 2, Medium difficulty, and Level 3, Hard difficulty. Starting out, I chose Level 1. Just playing through this first level, I could tell this game was fun. This game is a rail shooter where you head in a straight line forward, with enemies and obstacles along the way that you'll either need to shoot to destroy or maneuver around. You can also boost, brake, and tilt your ship, called the R-Wing, to both sides. You can also do a barrel roll if you double tap either the L or R button. Honestly, despite this being the first of its kind, I still think the controls work pretty well today. Sure, they are a bit clunky with the game's slower frame rate combined with the age of the game, but I felt they worked perfectly fine with the game's design. Being able to move around and barrel roll to dodge attacks was especially satisfying, with the barrel roll probably being my favorite move to use. Combined with the 3D graphics that, sure, are simplistic, but are seriously impressive to see on a 16-bit console such as the Super Nintendo, and you're in for a good time. As for Corneria, it's a good first stage for this game, allowing you to ease into the gameplay and learn the ropes. You can also see here that you can interact with your teammates, sort of at least. If you're shooting an enemy they're going after, they'll call you out for it, which I find kind of funny considering they're literally trying to save their planet, but again, given their elite status, I suppose it does make sense. They'll also be chased down by enemy ships, and you'll have to destroy them to ensure your teammates don't die, which they'll typically be grateful for. Except for Falco, he'll just tell you to mind your own business. Anyways, eventually, I reached the first boss of the game, the attack carrier. All it does is release enemy ships and rockets, and you need to hit the flashing areas in order to defeat it. It'll also break apart as you do more and more damage to it, until eventually it's destroyed. After this, we went to the second stage, that being the asteroid belt, where the first-person perspective would be introduced. See, this game also has different perspectives you can switch from, with third person being the main one, but first person often being the default in space levels. There's also a third one that's right behind your ship, but I never used this one. This was a lot more straightforward than the last stage, with the main obstacles simply being asteroids, with enemy ships scattered throughout. Afterwards is the second boss, being the Rock Crusher. This one shifts between two sets of blasters, and you have to destroy each set of blasters in order to gain access to the main weak point of the Crusher, which you then have to shoot at in order to destroy the machine. This is actually where I got my first death at, though I wouldn't consider this boss difficult. I would say it is a tad harder to beat than the first boss, simply because you have to be directly in front of the blasters in order to destroy them. After destroying the Rock Crusher, I moved on to the third stage, the Andros Space Armada. This was also a space level, but had more going for it as there was more going on. Specifically, your task in this stage is to destroy the energy cores of the battleships, so after fighting off some enemy ships, I'd do just that. These sections are short, and you basically go through and dodge the different obstacles in your way in order to destroy the core at the end, which you'll do a few times, before reaching the boss of the stage, the Atomic Base. I wasn't actually sure how to defeat this boss at first, though I ended up using my bombs in order to defeat it, but as it turns out, there actually is another way to defeat it. You're basically supposed to shoot these machines that emit electrical waves in order to destroy them, which will then open up this core to being attacked so you can destroy it. Anyways, after I destroyed it with my bombs, I moved on to the fourth stage, that being the Battle Base Meteor. This one had more enemies and more obstacles to avoid, though I could definitely feel the difficulty spike in this stage. My first time making it here, I actually lost Peppy. So yeah, this was not easy for me at first. The obstacles were becoming more precise to dodge, and the enemies were becoming more plentiful and throwing more attacks at me. I also died once before making it to the boss. Speaking of which, the boss in this stage is the Dancing Insector. This one was trickier since I had to shoot the legs while avoiding both its blaster shots as well as the boss itself whenever it tried coming in close. It would also launch fire blasts at me as well once it started losing more of its legs. This is also where I first encountered the mechanic of being able to lose part of your wings, which apparently is supposed to weaken your firepower, something I didn't know until I looked it up. Anyways, once all the legs are gone, you can simply attack the core until it's destroyed, which I did. After that, I moved on to the fifth stage, Venom, the final goal. It's another space level, though this time you're above the planet Andros resides on, Venom. This is when things started to become much trickier, as I encountered a lot more enemies trying to attack me, which caused me to die a couple of times before reaching the boss, Vantron. Thankfully, the boss in this stage is maybe the easiest in the game, as it doesn't have much health, and mainly relies on its cloning ability to throw you off. Once you find the real one though, this fight is over pretty quickly, so once I did, it fled, allowing me to move on to the sixth and final stage, which doesn't appear to have a name, so I'll just call it Venom. This is where the game goes all out on its difficulty, with the hardest part definitely being the obstacles here. These rectangular poles just phase in out of nowhere, and start making you have to move all over the place to make sure you don't take damage. Plus, there's these blocks that you have to maneuver around as well to make sure you're not in the way when they move. There's enemies here too, but they don't compare to the things you have to fly around. At the end of all that is another boss, which just so happens to be the same one from the last stage, so once I dealt with that, I can... Oh. Yeah, so this fight actually has a second phase now, and I'd probably consider this the hardest boss in easy mode. It takes quite a few hits to defeat it, but the most difficult part is that it moves around a bunch, and sends a bunch of blasts and rockets your way, which you have to dodge around while trying to hit the small core so you can damage it. It also will launch itself towards you, which is another thing you have to dodge. I died the first time I fought it, but was able to defeat it the second time, though with very little health left. Still, it was finally time to face off against the main villain of the game, Andros. I entered this giant structure, was given a health pickup, and had to dodge around some things before I finally faced off against Andros. I entered into this wavy environment, where a giant silver face spawned in and began shooting silver tiles at me, as well as sucking in air, drawing me in. I died the first time due to low health, but made it back for a second attempt with more health. You're supposed to shoot his eyes to destroy the silver face of his, revealing his true form? I'm not sure. He's literally just a cube here, with his face being on all the sides. I shot at it, doing some damage, though the silver face returned soon after. I did the same thing, and this time, after he revealed his cube form again, I was able to defeat him, finally putting an end to his reign of terror. Corneria had finally been saved. After defeating him, I exited the giant structure and left Venom. I contacted Pepper, who congratulated me on a job well done, and I returned to Corneria, having completed Star Fox.
Good luck.
I wasn't really sure what to expect going into this first game. Like I said, I've never played a Star Fox game before. I knew it was a rail shooter, but wasn't sure how fun that would be for me, given its more linear style of gameplay compared to what I usually like. I can confidently say now that I had quite a bit of fun with this game. Sure, the game doesn't have depth like, say, a Metroid game does with its gameplay, but it doesn't need to. What Star Fox delivers instead is a gameplay loop that is genuinely some good fun, with the controls working well enough to really make it feel nice to weave past the different obstacles, attack enemies, and see what's going to come up next that you're going to have to overcome. I also feel like, even at the easy difficulty, it was a decent enough challenge that I wasn't just blasting through it without any issue. It took me a few attempts to get through the game, and there's still 2 other difficulties that I didn't beat. I did try to beat level 2, but I currently don't feel like investing the time, but I absolutely am going to come back and do it at a later date, because what I played through was definitely a good challenge. Level 3 is, well, it lives up to the hard difficulty. Even after going through the majority of level 2 and beating level 1, the first stage of level 3 took me a couple of attempts to beat. They really ramp up the difficulty with it, and I appreciate that these different difficulties were added to the game. Not only are they harder routes compared to level 1, but they're also different routes that take you through different areas. For example, I think my favorite stage in the entire game from what I've played has to be Titania. It's the right amount of difficulty for me, and the theme here is great. Oh yeah, speaking of which, the soundtrack of Star Fox goes hard. Corneria's theme is iconic, but some of the other themes are fun to listen to as well, and is definitely fitting for the game. Even though the game isn't story heavy, there's still a bit of characterization here to help the characters stand out from each other, from Slippy's amateurish skills to Falco being the arrogant one. I'm sure in later entries their characters will be fleshed out more, but even here, there's still a bit to latch onto here. The different stages are cool as well, and the planets in particular stand out from each other, whether it be their atmosphere or the different obstacles and enemies you'll encounter in each. The bosses were also this way, with them each feeling different from each other, both in design but also in how you'd beat them. Also, can I just say how cool the R-Wing looks in this game? I genuinely like how angular this design is. It's a really nice looking ship. Anyways, Star Fox is a game that exudes fun, and I'd honestly recommend playing through level 1 if you're at all interested in rail shooters. Even if you're not sure if you are, I'd recommend trying it out. For a first game in the series, especially one this old, this may be up there as one of my favorites, and I'd give it a 7 out of 10. It's also made me that much more excited to try out the rest of the games, so if you want to see me do that, make sure to subscribe. For now, I'm out of here.